Sophia Sterling never imagined that people could be so cruel when they thought no one important was watching. But that was the price of hiding her name, her beauty, her crown. The girl who once commanded entire rooms with her smile was now invisible, or worse, the target of ridicule. And this isn't just about wealth. It isn't just about beauty. It's about betrayal, about revenge, about what happens when a woman who has been mocked, broken, and humiliated decides to take back her power in the most brutal way possible. But before we sink deeper into Sophia's journey, hello to you, dear listener. Where in the world are you tuning in from tonight? How are you doing? If this is your first time with us here on Unbroken Truths, welcome to the family. And if you haven't yet, I'd love for you to subscribe. These are the kinds of stories we tell here, tales of hidden pain, buried strength, and the powerful revelations that change lives forever. Now let's begin. Sophia Sterling. The very name once rolled off tongues like silk. Heiress of the Sterling Empire, her photographs graced glossy magazine covers, her appearances turned galas into headlines, and men whispered her name as though it were a prize to be won. She was beauty wrapped in wealth, and wealth wrapped in mystery. But what no one knew, what no one cared to see, was the loneliness buried inside her chest. Sophia had grown up in a mansion of glass. From the outside, it shimmered perfectly, untouchable, enviable. But inside, every wall echoed with silence. Her mother had died when she was young, and her father had built his empire with ruthless devotion, leaving little room for tenderness. Servants raised her, tutors guided her, and when she finally stepped into the spotlight of society, the world pounced. By 18, she was called the Diamond of New York. By 21, she had received more marriage proposals than most women twice her age, each one wrapped in flowers, jewels, and false promises. Each one, when unwrapped, reveals the same ugly truth. They didn't love her. They loved her last name, Sterling, a name that meant access to power, a bank vault of endless riches. And every time a man claimed he saw her, the real Sophia, she discovered he had been lying. Betrayal became a language she learned to understand. By 25, Sophia had stopped crying about it. She stopped hoping, stopped waiting for someone to love her without strings. Instead, she craved something else. And so the plan was born. She would erase herself, not forever, only long enough to see the world's true face. She would test them, the men, the women, the co-workers, the so-called friends. She would bury Sophia Sterling and rise as someone no one would value. Someone easy to mock. Her disguise was deliberate. Oversized glasses that swallowed half her face, a frizzy brown wig, dull as dust, heavy clothes that drowned her figure, and makeup carefully applied not to enhance but to erase. She painted shadows beneath her eyes, dulled her cheeks, and flattened her glow until even her reflection made her flinch. Then she chose a name. Sophie Harris, plain, forgettable, a girl no one would notice in a crowd. And thus began her descent into a world that didn't recognize crowns, jewels, or trust funds. A world where laughter was cruel and kindness was rare. Her first test came at Sterling Enterprises itself. Yes, her own empire, the one her father had built brick by brick, floor by floor. Under the name Sophie Harris, she applied for an entry-level assistant job at one of the downtown branches, a place far enough from the penthouse that no one would suspect her true identity. On her first day, her supervisor, Daniel Shaw, gave her a handshake that was neither warm nor welcoming. His eyes slid over her as though she were gum stuck to his shoe. "New, huh?" he muttered. "Well, try not to mess up. People like you don't last long here." People like you. The words stung more than she expected. Later that day, she met Emily Carson, another assistant, polished to perfection in her designer heels. Emily's gaze skimmed Sophia's outfit with thinly veiled disgust. "This office isn't a charity, sweetheart," Emily said with a sweet, poisonous smile. "You might want to fix yourself, or you'll disappear here faster than you think." Sophia only smiled faintly, lips pressed tight. If only Emily knew who stood before her. But not everyone was cruel. When she dropped a stack of files in the hallway and laughter rippled around her, a single voice cut through. "Here, let me help." She looked up to see a man crouching beside her, gathering papers before she could. His hands were rough, his eyes kind. He didn't sneer, didn't look through her, didn't laugh. "My name's Ethan Blake," he said softly. "Don't let them get to you. You'll be fine." Sophia's heart twisted unexpectedly. Just a few kind words, but they pierced deeper than all the insults combined. Still, she reminded herself to trust no one. Ethan could be different, or he could be the cleverest snake of them all. For now, she would wait, watch, endure every sneer, every cruel laugh, because when the time came, when the mask finally fell, the world would tremble. Sophia thought she was prepared. She had rehearsed in her mind the ridicule, the dismissive stares, the way people would look straight through her as if she were nothing. She told herself she would be strong, that this was her choice, her experiment. But no amount of rehearsing could soften the sting of real humiliation. At the office, Sophie Harris was quickly labeled the odd one out. Her colleagues whispered behind her back. Emily Carson, the polished assistant who had smirked at her on day one, made sure the whispers never stopped. "Did you see her hair?" Emily hissed one morning, loud enough for Sophia to hear. "Looks like she stuck her finger in an electrical socket." Laughter erupted around the break room. "Yeah, and that sweater," another chimed in. "Who even wears that? My grandma would burn it." Sophia lowered her eyes, clutching her coffee cup, her fingers tightening so hard she nearly cracked the paper rim. She reminded herself, every insult is fuel. Every sneer is a weapon I will use later. But sometimes the cruelty was more direct. One Friday, Daniel Shaw, her supervisor, called her into his office. "Close the door," he barked. Sophia obeyed, standing quietly as he shuffled papers. "You know, Sophie," he said, his lip curling, "people here wonder how long you'll last. You're not exactly sterling material." The word sterling made her insides burn. If only he knew. "Do you even own a mirror?" Daniel added cruelly. "You should scare the hell out of you, but at least you'd know what we all see every day." The words slammed into her like bricks. She kept her face still, but inside, rage cracked through her veins like lightning. She left the office without a word. And when the elevator doors closed, Sophia exhaled, her reflection staring back at her in the glass walls. The frizzy wig, the baggy clothes, the plain, colorless mask she had chosen. "Let them laugh," she whispered to herself. "Let them all laugh. Their day is coming." The weeks passed, each day stretching longer than the last. Sophia endured insults at work, cold shoulders at lunch, laughter in the halls. She began keeping a journal, each entry a catalog of the cruelty she endured. Every name, every insult, every act of mockery carefully written down. Emily Carson called her a charity case. Daniel Shaw said she looked like a scarecrow with paperwork. Two interns laughed when she tripped over a cord and spilled files everywhere. Each entry wasn't just memory, it was evidence. Proof of their ugliness, proof of the world's true face when wealth and beauty were stripped away. But beneath the fury, something unexpected kept tugging at her. Ethan Blake. He was different. While others mocked, Ethan offered her small kindnesses that cut through the cruelty. He shared his lunch when she forgot hers. He defended her in meetings when Daniel made her the scapegoat. He spoke to her like she mattered. And though Sophia told herself not to believe it, part of her wondered, was Ethan genuine? Or was his kindness just another mask waiting to fall when the truth came out? Her heart wrestled with suspicion and longing. Still, she pressed on with her plan, because soon the mask of Sophie Harris would come off. And when it did, every single person who mocked her would pay. Sophia didn't just want to reveal herself. She wanted revenge. Brutal, unforgettable revenge. And to achieve it, she began laying the groundwork. Quietly, secretly, she arranged for hidden cameras to be installed in common areas of the office, disguised as maintenance inspections she funded through her own silent channels. She began gathering recordings of every cruel laugh, every insult, every humiliation. She was turning their mockery into a weapon. The day would come when she would unveil not only who she was, but also the ugly truth of who they were. And when that day arrived, she swore the world would see them for what they truly were, parasites feeding on cruelty. Sophia's journal grew heavier with each passing week. Every name, every laugh, every insult carved itself onto the pages like scars. She reread them late at night in her rented apartment, her disguise still clinging to her skin like an ugly second layer. Some nights she cried silent tears into her pillow. Other nights she laughed to herself low, bitter, chilling laughs at how little these people knew. But one moment changed everything. It happened on a Thursday afternoon, just as the office clock ticked toward 4. Sophia had been sent to deliver files to Daniel Shaw's office. She knocked softly, pushed open the door, and froze. Inside, Daniel and Emily were leaning close together, whispering like snakes. "She's pathetic," Emily sneered, flipping her blonde hair. "The way she walks, the way she talks, ugh! I can't even look at her without gagging." Daniel chuckled. "I only keep her here because she does all the grunt work without complaining, like some desperate mutt hoping for scraps." Sophia gripped the file so tightly her knuckles turned white. Emily's voice sharpened. "She doesn't belong here, Daniel. She doesn't belong anywhere. It's people like her that make this place look cheap." Sophia wanted to storm in, scream at them, rip off her wig and reveal herself. But she didn't. She simply stepped back, unnoticed, and walked away. That night she poured herself a glass of wine, not as Sophie Harris, the ugly nobody, but as Sophia Sterling, heiress to a billion-dollar empire. And as she stared into her reflection, she whispered, "They think I don't belong here. Soon, they won't belong anywhere." It was no longer just an experiment. It was a war. From that moment, Sophia's plan shifted. She wasn't just recording evidence for her own satisfaction. She would expose them publicly, dismantle their reputations, and strip away their dignity, as they had tried to strip hers. The heiress inside her stirred like a dragon waking from slumber. And no one, not Daniel, not Emily, not the laughing interns, would be spared. But in the midst of the fire, one shadow of doubt lingered: Ethan. Because Ethan had never joined the cruelty. He smiled at her. He defended her. He noticed when she stayed late, offering to help with work she wasn't assigned. Sophia told herself not to care. Don't be fooled again. Men only pretend. They always pretend. But her heart beat faster every time he looked at her, as if daring her to believe that maybe he was different. The cruelty escalated. One Monday morning, Emily spilled her coffee on Sophia's papers and sneered. "Oops, maybe if you didn't dress like a rag doll, I'd see you standing there." Laughter rippled through the office. Another time, Daniel publicly humiliated her during a meeting. He held up her report, waved it in the air, and said, "This is garbage. No wonder nobody takes you seriously, Sophie. You're lucky we let you answer phones." The room erupted in chuckles. Sophia kept her eyes down, heat burning her cheeks. But beneath the humiliation, a dangerous calm spread through her. She wasn't broken. She was collecting. That evening, she sat in her apartment, scrolling through the hidden footage her cameras had captured. The video showed Daniel mocking her, Emily rolling her eyes, interns imitating her walk, employees cackling behind her back. Sophia's lips curved into a cold smile. "This," she murmured, "is gold." But just as her revenge plan solidified, her personal world cracked. One night, after a particularly brutal day, Sophia found herself outside the office building later than usual. Ethan was there too, locking his car. "Hey," he called softly. "Rough day?" Sophia hesitated, then nodded. Ethan walked closer, his voice low, almost protective. "Don't let them get to you, Sophie. They're small people. You're stronger than they'll ever be." The sincerity in his tone cut straight through her armor. For the first time in weeks, she felt warmth, but that warmth was dangerous. Because what if Ethan was just like the rest? What if his kindness was a mask? What if, the moment he knew her truth, he turned his back? Sophia couldn't risk it. Not again. And yet, as she walked away that night, her chest ached not from humiliation, but from the possibility of losing something she didn't even have. The darkest hour wasn't the mockery. It wasn't bullying. It was this standing at the crossroads of revenge and love, torn between the fire in her veins and the quiet hope whispering in her heart. And the fire was winning. She decided Ethan, too, would be tested. Because when her mask came off, when Sophia Sterling returned in all her glory, he would either stand with her or reveal himself as just another traitor. Either way, she would know. And when the day of reckoning arrived, there would be no mercy. Sophia's plan began quietly, like a whisper in a crowded room. She didn't storm into the office with vengeance written on her face. She didn't hurl insults or throw files in the air. No, Sophia was far too clever for that. Her power lay in silence, in patience, in the art of striking when no one expected it. The first step, information. Late at night when the office emptied, Sophia lingered. Her disguise gave her invisibility. People hardly noticed her presence in daylight, let alone after hours. With a flash drive tucked in her purse, she began downloading records from the shared drive. Financial inconsistencies, suspicious payments, emails that hinted at fraud. It was all there, buried in plain sight. By morning, she slipped back into her meek persona, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast. Daniel barked orders, Emily rolled her eyes, and the interns laughed. But Sophia smiled inside, because the more they underestimated her, the sharper her blade became. The real test came with Ethan. One Friday evening, as the office cleared, Ethan approached her desk. His smile was gentle, his tone kind. "Hey, Sophie, some of us are grabbing drinks tonight. You should come." Sophia froze. No one had ever invited her before, not Sophie Harris, the ugly nobody. Her instinct screamed, "Don't trust him." But another part of her, the part that remembered his kind words, his warm eyes, wanted to say yes. She studied him carefully. Was he sincere? Or was this another trick, another setup to make her the butt of a cruel joke? "I don't think I'd fit in," she murmured, lowering her gaze. Ethan frowned. "Don't say that. You belong just as much as anyone else." The words stabbed her with an ache she didn't want to feel. So she shook her head. "Maybe next time." Ethan looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Instead, he touched the edge of her desk gently, a small gesture, but one that lingered long after he walked away. Sophia exhaled sharply. Her heart wanted to believe him, but her mind was steel. If he's real, he'll prove it. If not, he'll fall with the rest. That weekend, Sophia unleashed the first wave of her plan. From an anonymous email, she leaked incriminating files to independent journalist documents exposing shady practices in Daniel's department. The story spread like wildfire through online forums. By Monday, whispers filled the office. Daniel stormed through the halls, red-faced, demanding answers. Emily looked pale, her confidence cracking. Sophia at her desk typed quietly, her lips curving into the faintest smile. They didn't know it yet, but the ground beneath them had already begun to crumble. That evening, Ethan approached her again, his brow furrowed. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Sophia blinked. "Why do you keep asking me that?" "Because," he hesitated, then met her gaze. "Because you look like you're carrying something heavy, and I can't stand watching you go through it alone." The honesty in his voice nearly broke her. Sophia swallowed hard. She wanted to tell him everything, that she wasn't Sophie Harris, that she wasn't powerless, that she wasn't who they thought. She wanted to test him with her truth, but not yet. Not until the empire of lies she built around herself finally shattered in front of everyone. Instead, she forced a small smile. "I'll be fine." Ethan studied her, unconvinced, but he let it go. And Sophia knew the final act was approaching. Soon the masks would fall, the lies would burn, and Ethan, kind, gentle, would either stand revealed as her one true ally, or just another vulture circling her wealth. The countdown had begun, and Sophia was ready. The storm broke on a Tuesday morning. The office buzzed with panic as news outlets splashed headlines across their screens. Shaw and Associates under fire, allegations of fraud surface. Daniel Shaw stormed into the conference room, his fists clenched, his voice spitting venom. "Find the leak. I don't care if you have to tear apart every desk, every computer finds out who did this." Emily trailed behind him, pale and trembling, her once perfect composure cracking. Sophia sat quietly at her desk, invisible, unnoticed, exactly where she wanted to be. But today, invisibility ended. At noon, Sophia received an email. Not as Sophie Harris, not as the ugly girl, but as Sophia Sterling. Her father's company had finalized the takeover. Shaw and Associates now belonged to Sterling Global Enterprises, and the boardroom awaited her. When Sophia entered the conference room, the air shifted. Gone was the hunched figure in baggy sweaters. Today she wore a tailored black suit that framed her perfectly. Her hair, once hidden under a dull wig, cascaded in glossy waves. Her eyes, cold, sharp, unmasked, met theirs like blades. Daniel blinked, confused. Emily's lips parted, her face draining of color. "Who are you?" Daniel demanded, though his voice faltered. Sophia stepped forward, heels clicking against the polished floor. Her voice was calm, controlled, and devastatingly sharp. "My name," she said, pausing for effect, "is Sophia Sterling, heiress to Sterling Global. Effective immediately, your company is mine." The silence that followed was suffocating. Emily stumbled backward, her voice breaking. No, this has to be a joke." Daniel's face turned crimson. "You're lying. You're nothing but—" "An ugly girl?" Sophia cut in, her smile icy. "A mutt? Garbage?" She let the words drip with venom. "Funny, Daniel. Those are the words you used. Do you remember?" The blood drained from his face. Sophia placed a folder on the table and slid it across. Inside, you'll find evidence of your fraud, your harassment, your pathetic cruelty. Copies have already been sent to the authorities. Emily lunged forward, shaking her head. Please, you can't do this. I didn't mean. You didn't mean to laugh at me, to spill coffee on me, to call me disgusting when you thought I wasn't listening. Sophia's voice cracked with the weight of her fury. Every insult, every sneer, every cruel laugh you handed me the rope to hang you with. Emily fell silent, tears spilling down her cheeks. Daniel tried to stand tall, but his hands trembled. You won't get away with this. Sophia leaned in, her voice a whisper that cut like a blade. I already have. The room erupted when the board members arrived. One by one, they extended hands not to Daniel, not to Emily, but to Sophia Sterling, their new chairwoman. Daniel was escorted out, his face white with shock. Emily collapsed into her seat, sobbing, her world in ruins. Sophia watched it all, her expression unreadable. The revenge was everything she'd imagined, crushing, brutal, complete. But then, a hand touched her shoulder. She turned. Ethan stood there, wide-eyed, staring at her as if seeing her for the first time. Sophia? He whispered. Her chest tightened. Here it was, the moment of truth. Yes, she said softly. My name is Sophia Sterling. Everything you thought you knew was a lie. The room hushed, eyes shifting to Ethan. Would he sneer? Would he recoil like the others? Would he accuse her of trickery? Instead, Ethan smiled faintly. Not a greedy smile, not a hungry smile. Just Ethan. I don't care who you are, he said, voice steady. Heiress or not, you're still you, and that's the person I care about. Sophia's heart stuttered. For the first time in months, the mask cracked, not the disguise, but the armor she had built around her heart. Revenge had been sweet, but Ethan's words tasted different. They tasted like hope. Sophia turned back to the broken figures of Daniel and Emily. Her voice rang with finality. You wanted to laugh at the ugly girl. You thought you could crush me. Instead, I crushed you. She walked out of the room with Ethan by her side, her enemies left behind in the ruins of their arrogance. But her story wasn't ending in destruction. It was only just beginning in power, in love, in truth. Sophia Sterling had risen, and the world would never laugh at her again. The world outside the glass tower seemed brighter than Sophia remembered. When she walked through the revolving doors that day, no longer Sophie Harris, no longer the ugly girl, but Sophia Sterling, the heiress unmasked, the city air tasted different, crisp, alive. The crowd of reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, microphones outstretched. Miss Sterling, what do you say to those who mocked you? Was this entire disguise a scheme for revenge? Do you regret hiding who you are? Sophia paused at the top of the steps, Ethan just behind her. She faced the chaos with calm poise. I regret nothing, she said simply, because through this I learned the truth about people. Some revealed cruelty, some revealed kindness, and kindness, I've found, is worth more than all the money in the world. The flashes exploded brighter. Her words would spread everywhere by evening. But Sophia didn't care. She had said what she needed to say. The days that followed were a blur. Daniel was formally charged. Emily's social circle crumbled overnight. Her so-called friends abandoned her like rats fleeing a sinking ship. The office Sophia once walked through with bowed shoulders now whispered her name in reverence. She could have crushed them further, could have destroyed what little remained of their lives. But she didn't, because vengeance, though sweet, was not the same as peace. And Sophia wanted peace. One evening, she sat on her penthouse balcony, the city lights glowing below. Ethan joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. He set one in front of her before settling into the chair beside her. You've been quiet, he said softly. Sophia gazed out at the skyline. I spent so long planning their downfall, Ethan, and now it's over. He studied her for a moment, then asked, Does it feel the way you thought it would? Sophia let out a long breath. Not exactly. Revenge is satisfying. But it doesn't fill the emptiness they left behind. What fills it? She turned to him, her voice trembling. I know there was one person who saw me, really saw me, even when I wasn't me. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. I didn't fall for the heiress, he said. I fell for the woman who kept going when everyone tried to break her. Her throat tightened. For the first time since her disguise began, tears fell freely not from pain, but from relief. Sophia Sterling, the girl who had been mocked, bullied, spat on, had found something greater than revenge. She had found love that wasn't built on her money, her name, or her beauty. It was built on her. Months later, Sophia returned to the office not as an outsider, not as prey, but as its leader. Her first act as chairwoman wasn't to punish the weak or flaunt her power. It was to create programs for employees who had been overlooked, silenced, or bullied. No one, she declared in her first speech, should ever feel invisible in a place where they give their time and their talent. The applause that followed wasn't laced with mockery this time. It was respect. That night, as she left the office, Ethan walked beside her, their hands brushing until they intertwined. "You know," he teased, "when I first asked you to come for drinks, I thought you'd never give me a chance." Sophia laughed softly, leaning into him. "You should know by now I don't make things easy." He smiled. "Good, easy isn't worth it." And as they stepped into the glow of the evening lights, Sophia Sterling realized the truth she had been chasing all along. Yes, revenge had its place, but love was the final victory, and she had won both. And so Sophia Sterling's journey reminds us, what people mock today may one day rise above them all. The laughter of cruelty always dies, but the strength of truth endures. Tell me, what would you have done in Sophia's place? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Unbroken Truths for more stories like this. Stories that prove no lie, no mask, and no cruelty can bury the power of truth.